All right.
Excellent, Daryl. I think we're ready to go.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason, and welcome everybody this afternoon to this joint presentation by CE Broker and the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council. I know everybody's got a lot of questions and just uh, just kind of concern over this new transition to CE Broker. So we're trying to put on at least 3 of these webinars to educate everybody, all the licensees on this. To kind of get you used to it, to kind of see what it's about and kind of understand the background. So just to start out with, of course, if any of you have ever been to our meetings, our leadership listening hours, you know, I'm Daryl Spinks. I'm the executive director for BHEC. I have with me here Mr. Robert Romig. He's the deputy executive director for the council. And we're also joined today by Mr. Jason Grubb with CE Broker, and he's got 3 of his cohorts here with him today, Deb Carter, Kenya DeBrule, and Tian Rose, who's former ED up at the Oklahoma Psychology Board, so she's not unfamiliar with the mental and behavioral health boards. Just to kind of let everybody know, there's a cap on the number of people that can be in a Zoom webinar. It's capped at 1,000, but anybody over and above that 1,000 can still watch everything that's going on today. This is being live streamed on CE Broker's YouTube page, and you'll receive an automatic link to that whenever you try to access the webinar if it's full, which it appears to be full right now. Um, just kind of let you know what this is really about today. BHEC is partnered with CE Broker to provide a comprehensive CE management for this agency, licensees, and education providers. In other words, all of you out there in TV land today. And Jason, CE Broker, and his staff are here with us today, and they're going to do a demonstration on the system basics, and we're all going to try to answer your questions that you may have about the use of the system. Robert and I are here to answer questions on the BHEC side, and Jason and his crew are here to answer questions about the CE Broker side. Um, just to kind of give you an outline like how we got here, the use of an online CE management system is something that BHEC had been looking at doing for quite some time. I think it stretches all the way back to 2022 when we first began looking. If you've been watching our meetings since then, you'll recall we had many meetings where we actually discussed the project, and we actually voted to put out an open bid on this, and CE Broker was the winning bidder, if you will. The criteria, I mean, well, we won't go into all the criteria of it, but one of the things what we recognized at the council is as our licensee population is growing, and right now we're at about 92,000 licenses under regulation, but as that continues to grow, we're going to have to leverage technology in order to manage the accountability that is required and expected of us for the public protection functions that we serve. And one of the only ways we can do that is through the use of programs like this. Now, while BHEC had started down this path a long time ago, Senate Bill 912, which passed this last legislative session, has now mandated it for all agencies. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve on that. We're not just having to start now that the Senate bill has passed. We're already in the implementation phase. And there's a few other Texas agencies that have already gone down this road. Texas Medical Board, Texas Optometry Board, and I can't recall if there's others, but um, just to kind of give you some idea of what we're going to be talking about today, because this is something that we are now mandating, I want everybody out there in TV land to understand that you are going to be required to use CE Broker to upload and manage your continuing education for BHEC. So you're going to have a CE Broker account. Jason's going to go over all that with you about what that entails, what the costs are, which are nothing. It's not going to cost you anything. There's a free basic account. Um, there are some paid options though that you can look at, and I'll let Jason and his team share that with you. We're going to use CE Broker to ensure compliance with the continuing education requirements for your particular profession. We're also, in the past, you haven't had to upload proof of continuing education prior to renewal. That's going to change. We're going to require you to upload it. But there's also going to be some changes. We used to require, um, we would do audits pre-renewal, and if you weren't allowed to renew until we did the audit, we're going to be changing up some of that. We're now going to switch to post-renewal audits. So there'll be some changes that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail as we get into this. But um, let's see, we we we'll have a Q&A session towards the end. I'm expecting probably about 30 to 45 minutes of presentation between us and Jason and his crew. but we'll have some Q&A moments in the end. Now, in the meantime, you guys can use the Q&A option down in the menu below and post your questions there, and they'll either be answered by Jason and his staff or Robert and myself as we're going through the proceeding, or they'll be elevated so that we answer them live in the webinar. So that'll depend on what we decide would be the best way to answer that. So uh, I think, Jason, I think I've pretty much covered it. Probably not in the order that we had in the agenda, but I think the mission's done. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you introduce yourself and your crew.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Daryl. I really appreciate it. Daryl and Robert. So, hi, everybody. My name is Jason Grubb, and I'm with CE Broker. I am so happy that you joined us. As Daryl mentioned today, I'm going to provide you with a thorough overview of CE Broker so you understand, who we are, how to use our platform to report hours, find approved content, review your history, and where to get help from our support staff should you need it. Like Daryl mentioned, this webinar is actually scheduled for 2 full hours. However, the actual overview and the demo portion, that's probably only going to last about 35 to 45 minutes, meaning that essentially the whole back half of this webinar is dedicated to Q&A. I know Daryl kind of already laid some ground rules, but I will just add that I am not here alone, thankfully. I'm aided by my colleagues, Deb Carter, Kenya Debrol, Tian Rose. They're going to be monitoring the Q&A feed and either answering questions directly there, like Daryl mentioned, or they'll kind of compile some of the common questions and we will try and answer those aloud. Notably, those that are viewing this webinar on the live stream, there's no ability to interact with the webinar or ask questions. There are some additional webinar opportunities coming up in October and December if you'd like to try and make one of those opportunities down the road. So I have some slides to share with you first. Then we'll actually kind of get into the product demo itself. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Kind of an overview of who we are. So CE Broker is but one product line powered by an organization called Propellus that is really focused on modernizing how professionals, their employers, regulating entities, and those respective associations kind of all work together. A little over 20 years ago, our platform was conceived as a solution for Florida's Department of Health, kind of as an automated solution to track the CE requirements for all 33 healthcare boards underneath that agency and the million plus or so licensees there. Additionally, one of our product lines, EverCheck, that's a credentials verification platform. It's used by hospital and health system HR departments to basically ensure that healthcare workers and other employees that they're kind of clear to be out on the floor on any given day. Then additionally, we have a product line called ImmuWare. That's a comprehensive employee and occupational health monitoring software. Think of it sort of like Intuit, right? Intuit has Credit Karma and TurboTax, etc. Similar structure. Propellus has within it EverCheck CE Broker, which is the product line that we're here to talk about today, and ImmuWare. So I mentioned we started a little over 20 years ago. Since then, we've expanded quite a bit. We now work with a little over 300 agencies nationwide. That represents about 5 million licensed professionals like yourselves. And kind of the secret sauce to our platform is we have privileged relationships with thousands of educational providers as well. Texas actually marks the 12th state whose mental and behavioral health licensees we serve. So there is a good chance that your colleagues and peers in some of these other states on screen are already familiar with CE Broker and using us. Personally, fun fact, Texas is my home state. So I'm especially excited to bring our solution to a state that I know so well and love so much. I actually grew up just a little bit north of Daryl and Robert there in Austin in a tiny little town called Jarrell, Texas. Went to college at Texas State. I might be aging myself here, but it was Southwest Texas State University back then. Go Bobcats. But yeah, so it's excited to add Texas to our list of mental and behavioral health uh, professions that we now serve. Our platform is not just for licensees. Rather, it is built with kind of all three primary stakeholders in mind. So the board, the licensee, and the educational provider, each of these stakeholders kind of have their own bespoke experience within our platform to help ensure that they can, in concert, complete their respective kind of piece of the CE life cycle, as it were. A couple quick points on course reporting, and I will detail this in more depth once we actually get into the demonstration. But there's two primary ways that your course completions make their way into our platform. The first is via self-reported submissions, where you, as the licensee, kind of go in course by course. You manually report those completions and upload corresponding documentation. I will show you that process as part of the demo, like I mentioned. But then additionally, because we do work with so many providers nationwide, those providers can actually report completions on your behalf. And they can do it in a number of ways, either individually or they can upload a bulk attendance roster from, say, an association conference, or some of the larger national entities, they will actually set up a back-end connection between their system and ours. Just kind of one additional step to help streamline the process of reporting and tracking your continuing education. Daryl mentioned the account options previously, and I'll touch on this in the demo as well. But just a high-level overview, you might kind of be wondering how all of this works. So we actually provide a free solution to the board, or in this case, the Behavioral Health Executive Council, to licensees and to educational providers. We're able to offer those free services through a very small percentage of actual paid subscriptions. So we do have several account options available to licensees when using CE Broker. The first plan, that's our basic account. It provides all of the essential features that you need to track your continuing education and stay in line with board requirements. Again, this is a free package. It's really rich with features. We're rolling out new features included in the free account all the time. Of the 5 million licensees that are on our platform, the vast majority of them do use the basic free account. And so while, as Daryl mentioned, you are required by BHEC to have a CE Broker account, the basic free version certainly meets that criteria. For licensees that prefer some additional kind of convenience features, our paid offerings include the professional and the concierge account. And like I said, this is kind of just for those individuals that want everything in one place. You can see the pricing tiers associated with those account options there. The biggest differentiator here is that the professional and concierge account include a compliance transcript, which kind of shows you, it does all that math for you that shows what you've completed, what's still outstanding. And the concierge account includes that certainly, but also comes with a dedicated account manager that will help just provide that one-on-one support, help making sure that you're kind of staying on track, that you have everything that you need ahead of renewal. If you're ever audited, they can kind of help make sure that you have everything in order to respond to the audit. Basically, just do everything for you except actually, attend the course and do the learning. Just a couple more slides here before we jump into the demonstration. We do have a free mobile app so that you can bring CE kind of wherever you go. It's available on both Android and Apple devices. Allows you to check compliance, like I said, kind of from anywhere and snap a photo of your certificate and report CE on the spot, say from that conference that you're attending, and do much more. Then lastly here, we take great pride in offering a dedicated in-house team of customer support specialists that are based here in the United States. They're bilingual, English and Spanish. They're trained on BHEC's rules and regulations. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central. I know it says Eastern time on here, but I'm doing some mental math here. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Additionally, we have a robust resource library that's kind of full of step-by-step guides, tutorial videos, and more, just in case you ever need it. And I will show you how to access those support features as part of the demonstration. So with that, let me jump over into the actual product demonstration itself. So this is our homepage. As a web-based software solution, everything done on CE Broker is accessed through our website, www.cebroker.com. Unless, of course, you're on the mobile app, then you'll use the mobile app. But this is what it looks like when you first come to our platform. The initial thing that you'll want to do if you haven't done it yet is you'll want to go ahead and create your CE Broker account. And it's really simple to get started. You just click on the green box that says get started. So we'll click on that. Because our system is bespoke to each state entity and their profession's unique rules and requirements, we need to know what state and what your profession is so that we can make sure we're giving you that bespoke experience. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and select our state as Texas, obviously. And for our demonstration purposes, we're going to say that we are a licensed psychologist that's creating this initial account. We'll go ahead and click continue. Then you'll see those account options I mentioned previously. I won't go into the details of those upgraded paid accounts again here because BHEC only requires that you have the basic free account to meet their requirement. We're going to go ahead and get started with just that, the basic free account. So we get data regularly from the board so that we can ensure that we're matching up our system to who you are. And the first place where kind of that happens is by entering in your license number. If you don't know your license number or you forgot it, you can click this link here. Make sure you're selecting the Texas BHEC board. Daryl mentioned we also work with the medical board and optometry. Select BHEC, and it's going to take you over to that license verification page. You can look up your license number in case you forgot it. But in our example here for this test case, we're going to say our license number is 888-888-88. And we'll go ahead and click continue. Now, because there are, come on, give it 1 second here. Let me refresh. Oh, let me try again. Sorry about that. Well, my system's going slow right now. Let's see. Just give it 1 second. Let me actually close this and I'll reopen a new one. Oops. My internet connection is solid. Let me go ahead and do this. Let me try a different browser real quick. Bear with me, folks. I apologize.
Robert, while he's doing that, you got any questions you want to answer live? If not, I'll
I
take
can
one real
unmute.
quick.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yeah, one very basic one just for everybody to know. I've gotten a couple of questions about when do you have to start doing this, and you may create your account now and start uploading CE right away. The starting on January 1st, if you try to renew your license, you will not be able to if you have not completed an account and uploaded your CE. And so the deadline for you personally will depend on when your license renewal date is. But I highly suggest you don't wait till the day before to try to create your account and upload everything. That's that's the one I've noticed.
Okay. And I had just answered a question in the chat or in the Q&A. Somebody was asking about concerns over is something that's free actually ever free? And let me just put this to bed right now. Yes, it is. The data that we have to share with CE Broker in order to set all the system up, to set everything up, continues to be BHEX data. It is not CE Broker's data. It's ours by the agreement. And one of the things we require of CE Broker is that they provide the free basic online account to everybody so that it would be zero cost to you. So yes, it truly is a zero cost. And another thing, the law does not allow us to pay for the service. So any online CE management system that the agency use has to be of zero cost to the agency, which this is. So CE Broker has a different business model for how they make money that really doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing here today. So just to answer everybody's questions, your data is secured, not being sold, and it truly is zero cost to you.
Thanks, Robert and
And
Daryl. Sorry, go ahead,
Jason,
Robert.
sorry, one question that while we had this a little interruption, at the very beginning, several people were asking, are we going to send out a copy of the slide deck? And I know I answered folks, we are going to be posting the recording of this meeting, but I didn't know if y'all were going to share that slide deck or not.
The slide deck here, we can certainly make it available.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but for some reason right now, the sign up function seems to have a little glitch. So let me go ahead and just sign in to the test accounts that we've already created for demonstration purposes. We can go ahead and start there and at least show licensees kind of how they report CE, how they view their history, etc. We'll try and come back to the actual sign up flow towards the end. Maybe it'll be working by then. So let me just grab these test credentials that I created for our demonstration purposes, and I'll go ahead and sign in here. Okay. So whether you have a basic free account or one of the upgraded paid accounts, this initial view, this kind of overview page, essentially looks the same. Really the only distinction here is the basic account will just provide a binary complete, not complete. The upgraded paid accounts will kind of show you that progress and that percentage that you've, as you kind of near 100% status. A few things to kind of orient you to here. Initially, you'll see the profession type listed here at the top. You will see the compliance status. Like I mentioned, it's either going to show complete or not complete. If you have a basic account, it's going to show you that progress. If you have an upgraded account, it's going to show your license details. So obviously the state, the license number, then the current cycle that you are in. Then down here below, it's going to show you your course history. This is going to reflect anything that you have self-reported yourself or has been reported on your behalf by an educational provider. Couple other things to orient you to here as well. If you go up to the little envelope icon here in the upper right, this is your inbox. So you will see all the notifications that have gone into here when you report something yourself or when something has been reported on your behalf. These are all kind of just sample self-submissions, but you can also see something that has been reported on your behalf by an educational provider, in this instance here. That all displays there. Should the board ever launch an audit and have communication with you surrounding that audit, you'll see that back and forth correspondence here in the communication center on this screen. And then if you're like me and you don't like having a cluttered, inbox as it were, you can certainly select all of these communications and delete them or archive them to kind of keep this neat and clean. Additionally, if you click the little settings icon, the little gear icon here in the upper right, you can go down to your account settings and you can modify some of this kind of basic information. I want to specifically kind of call your attention to these email reminders and notifications. So our system is the default is to send those email reminders to licensees, both when you have completions, either that you have self-reported or have been submitted on your behalf. If you only want to receive those in the message box and not get emails, you can certainly make that selection here. Then additionally, our system will send reminder emails to licensees as their continuing education deadline nears and or as their license or certificate expiration deadline nears. Then if you've loaded any credentials into the system as those deadlines near as well. This is pretty simple for, I believe, across all of the boards within BHEC, the CE cycle and the license cycle are one and the same. Some agencies we work with, those are disjointed and they're different. But if you would like to ensure that you're not getting those email reminders, you can make those changes here. Obviously, if I just try and click these, nothing is happening. I have to go up and click this little edit icon here, and then you can make those selections and update accordingly. Let me jump back over to the basic or the account view here. A couple other things that I want to kind of just draw your attention to before we jump into showing you how to report CE and all of that stuff. If you need to download a record of your course history for any reason, you can do so here. There's a simple tab that says Easy Export. This is available, of course, across all of the account levels. You can click Export and it's going to create a PDF for you. So you can store that for yourself. You can send that to an association or whatever the case may be where you need to demonstrate your completion of those various hours. Another thing I'll point out here before we get into the reporting CE component is how you go about tracking or adding additional licenses to your CE broker account. So we get that question a lot. Do I need multiple CE broker accounts if I have multiple licenses? The answer is no. You can put them all under one account. And if you are using one of the upgraded paid accounts, it's one fee for all the licenses. We have gone in here and we have added the credentials for some of these additional license types that are housed within BHEC. So you'll see that this individual, this sample individual, this Jane Doe, is an LPC, they're a psychologist, they're a social worker, and they are a marriage family therapist. Once these different professions have been loaded into CE Broker, it's easy enough to kind of just toggle back between all of them and view the respective kind of compliance status and course histories associated with each of those licenses. To add a license, you'll simply go down here to the bottom. You'll click the button here that says Add a new license. You'll select the state, the profession, enter in the license number. Then our system is going to work on the back end to try and tie those licenses together. You may have to wait up to 24 hours before those licenses are actually tied. You can view an example of a pending instance of that kind of happening here. Once that is completed on the back end, all of those licenses will be available and viewable within a singular account. So one thing to keep in mind here is that the way our system works, it's very chronological. The first account that shows up when you log in as CE Broker and the one at the top is going to be whichever one you put in there first. So it's just important to know that if you do hold multiple licenses, either underneath the same agency, in this case BHEC, or across multiple states, you just want to make sure that you are toggling and looking at the correct license that you want to view your compliance status for and or report course completions for. Let me see if there's anything else on this screen I wanted to highlight before I move on to demonstrating how to report continuing education. Okay, think we've covered it all there. So let's say you are this LPC in this example, and you have a substantial amount of continuing education that you still need to complete ahead of your July 31st, 2026 deadline. You'll just kind of go up here to this button that says Report CE. And it's going to present you with the different reporting options. You can report CE that's recognized towards the 50% rule, CE that's not recognized towards the 50% rule. You can report your 1 hour of human trafficking. You can, and then you can report some of these kind of additional non-continuing education options down here as well. And I'll show you a few of these examples. We'll start with the CE recognized towards the 50% rule. First of all, you'll notice under each of these reporting options, there's some more information. So you can click this drop-down arrow. It's going to say learn more. This kind of outlines specifically what counts as meeting that 50% rule, kind of the established guidelines for the types of educational providers that you need to take that content from, so you can review that ahead of reporting. And then additionally, it gives you a preview of what's going to be expected of you, the questions you're going to have to answer as part of that reporting flow before you actually get started. So we'll jump in here. We'll actually report some hours for this continuing education for the CE cycle. So you'll click report. The first thing we need to know is the completion date. We need to make sure, obviously, that the date that the course was completed is within this cycle for it to actually apply to this cycle. In this case, I'm going to select August 1st. We're going to say that this was a live course. As far as I know, there aren't any kind of live or delivery or live or anytime restrictions across behavioral health executive councils, but we'll go ahead and select this as a live course, and we'll say this is a web-based program. And then we're going to go ahead and say we want to report, let's say we took a 7-hour course in ethics. We're going to report 7 hours. We're going to click continue. And it's going to ask you some basic kind of attestation questions. What is the name of the course? I'm going to put ethics course test. It's going to ask you what's the name of the educational provider you took the course from. I'm going to say ethics provider test. And it's going to ask you to answer one of the questions to ensure that this, in fact, is the type of course taken from a provider that meets the 50% rule. In this case, let's say this was a provider that's approved by maybe another state's board of counseling, for instance. So we can say city, county, state, or federal government entity approved this provider or this course. We'll click continue. It's only after you have answered those attestation questions when our system is going to let you upload verifying documentation. So we'll go ahead and attach our evidentiary documentation that corresponds with this course completion. I have a sample certificate loaded here on my desktop. We'll go ahead and upload that sample certificate. We'll click continue, and you'll get a screen kind of asking you to verify and attest that what you're submitting is true and accurate. Then you can go ahead and submit CE. And you get a confirmation here. If you want to print this, you can do so, or print and download as a PDF. You have that option. If you have additional CE to report, you can do so here. If you have an upgraded account and you want to go and view your transcript, you can do that here as well. I'm going to go ahead and just exit out of this and show you what this then looks like on your course history. So as you can see, here is the ethics course that we reported. We reported it for 7 hours. If you click the drop-down menu here, the little drop-down arrow, it's going to show you all of the specifics. Our system is going to assign a unique tracking number to it. It's going to show you the date that it was submitted. It's going to show you the number of hours, and it's going to show you your answers to the attestation questions. And then it's going to provide you an opportunity to download that certificate that you uploaded should you need it. So many people will use CE Broker simply as a document repository. If they ever need to go and retrieve that documentation, they can do so into perpetuity for as long as they would like. Now, one thing I'll show you here, a question we get a lot is, what if you erroneously reported continuing education hours? You have a few different options. So you can edit the submission. If you click the little ellipsis to the right of the trash can and you want to go and edit the course, you can make some edits. You can edit the name of the course, the name of the provider, and the completion date. You cannot edit the number of hours. And if you need to change the number of hours, like the little pop-up here indicates, you need to delete the entry and then resubmit it. So for our demonstration purposes, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to delete the submission. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to delete it? We're going to say yes. You'll see that immediately updates the history. So now let's go back and re-report it, and I'll show you a couple other features of our platform as part of this process. So I'm going to re-report that exact same submission, CE recognized towards the 50% rule. I'll report it. Let's say our completion date was correct and the course type and the delivery mechanism, that was all correct. But let's say, oh, it was actually an 8-hour course. I want to make sure I'm getting credit for the extra hour. I'm going to change this to 8 hours and I'll click continue. We'll re-answer these questions. And we'll use that same, say it was approved by another state's counselor board. We'll click continue. We'll attach our documentation. This process you all saw. And click continue. We'll answer our attestation question and go ahead and submit. And we'll jump back over to our course history and we'll see there it is again, and it counts for the 8 hours. Now, if you have an upgraded account and you can see the little compliance tabulation has updated, we're a little bit closer to reaching our goal of 100%. If you have an upgraded account, you do have the ability to view that course transcript, which I mentioned before. I'm going to show you what that looks like real quick. So if you have an upgraded account, you can see this transcript, which kind of maps out all those hours and kind of specific subject areas for you. It gives you a little bit of additional visibility. We can scroll down here and we can see that we have satisfied our requirement of the 5 hours for ethics. However, we reported 8 hours because BHEC allows hours to roll over from ethics and distinct populations, for example, into the kind of general requirement or the remaining hours required area. You can see that 3 of those hours went over there. So now this licensee only needs 5 hours for remaining. They still obviously need to do human trafficking and the jurisprudence exam and the distinct populations requirement, etc. And we kind of give you little visuals for what exactly is happening with the transcript here. So let me also show you what happens if you are trying to report hours outside of the rules set forth by BHEC. So I'll use another example. I'll go back over here to report CE. And let's say I want to leverage one of these other reporting options, in this case, self-study. If you click on the learn more, you can learn a little bit more about this reporting criteria. You'll notice that the board only allows licensees to report 1 hour as self-study. So let's say you reviewed a journal article, for instance, that would classify as self-study. Let's say you did that, you want to report that for some of your continuing education. We'll jump in here to report. And again, let's use that same date. Let's say we did this on August 1st. And let's say that we're going to have these count towards general. And we're going to say, let's say, oh, it took me 3 hours to review this article. I want 3 hours to count. You'll enter 3 here and you'll click continue. Our system is going to say, hang on, as I showed you previously, you're not allowed to do that. It's only going to count for up to 1 hour. And so you'll go in here and modify this to just say, okay, 1 hour, you'll try again, click continue. In this case, the system's going to let you do that. You'll want to describe that activity, and you can just say, reviewed journal article XYZ. And it's just going to ask you, was it specific to the practice of counseling? You'll say yes. In this instance, for this reporting type, there's not a document upload step. And so it's just going to tell you, it's just going to have you answer those 2 questions, and you'll click yes, what I've said is true and accurate, and submit the CE. Then we can go back over to our course history and our transcript and view where that populates, here. Now, a couple other things that I want to mention is there are situations where the board has a process in place to waive CE requirements, really only applicable to those who are active duty military. But let me show you how that process works in CE Broker, just in case that situation applies to you. If you go to Report CE, and you click on this second tab here labeled Additional Options. Click on Additional Options, you'll select the CE cycle. Oh, in this case, this reporting exemption has already been selected. Let me find a different example for you. Let's use the marriage family therapist. This is a good one to use for this demonstration. So we'll go over to Report CE, that same process. We'll click Additional Options. We'll select the cycle. Actually, for marriage family therapists, there is kind of an additional exemption option. If you are not providing telehealth, there is an option to remove the technology. What is it labeled, guys? It's like technology assisted. It's 2 hours for something in that
Technology
category.
assisted hour. Yeah, technology assisted hours.
So there is an option to submit an exemption waiver to waive those 2 hours required for marriage family therapists. The active military duty exemption waiver applies to all professions, and it'll give you a little more information here about how to go ahead and submit that. Notably, this exemption routes to the board for approval. So just because you've submitted it, until the board approves it, it's not going to change your transcript. The board has to approve it to, effectively kind of zero out to essentially zero out your requirements for that specific cycle. But that's where it exists. Then if you were to go into your CE Broker account, you could view those submissions under the additional options. In this case, you can see that this telehealth requirement was submitted, but then it was revoked. You can view that history under the additional options tab here. Let me show you one example under the social worker license that we have here. I'll show you kind of what happens if you submit an exemption waiver that does in fact waive your CE requirements. So you'll see that this social worker here, for their cycle, it's showing that they are complete. It's showing they're complete because under additional options, they have an active military duty waiver that's been submitted and it's been approved. However, they have reported a bunch of continuing education here. So you may ask yourself, well, what happens with that continuing education if, essentially, I don't have any CE requirements for this cycle? If you have an upgraded paid account, you can view your transcript and get some additional visibility into kind of actually what's happening there. So you can see that the hours required are 0. And this is because this individual has submitted and has had approved that active duty military exemption waiver. However, because they have submitted continuing education, some of those hours will essentially bank or be allowed to roll over to a future cycle. So if I go and look at the future cycle that is in CE Broker here, you'll see that 23 of those hours have posted. However, because the Behavioral Health Executive Council has a limit on the number of hours they can carry over, it's a 10-hour limit, you'll see that while 23 essentially carried over, only 10 of those are counting. So this licensee for the future cycle still needs to do 20 of their 30 hours. So I just kind of wanted to show you how you go about submitting those exemption waivers and then where to find those once they've been approved. They'll live here under the additional options tab. Couple other things I'll show you here quickly is, in addition to reporting continuing education that you have already completed, let's say you're in a situation where your deadline's coming up and you have not done the required continuing education, you can actually find content directly within our platform by clicking the Take CE button here at the top of your account. So this LPC license, we'll go ahead and say, let's take CE. This will take you over into our CE Broker Marketplace. And this is where education providers can list their courses to be found by you, the licensee. And because it's coming straight from your CE Broker account, it knows that you are a licensed professional counselor in Texas. It's going to show you courses specific to you and your profession. If you, for some reason, find yourself looking at the wrong profession, you can change that here, and you can sort by subject area. So let's say, for instance, you want to find just courses that help you meet the ethics requirement. You can sort by that. It's going to show you some courses specific to the ethics requirement. You can also search by education provider. If there's a specific provider who you like taking content for and they're on our platform, you can search for them here. You can search for courses that are live, that are self-paced, and you can use a keyword search to find specific content maybe related to, narcissism or something to that effect, whatever it is you kind of have an interest in taking. Just a little note about some of the courses on our platform here. If you see a course that has a green Take It Here box, that essentially just means that the entire course, the entire process is completed entirely on CE Broker. So you will find the course, you will pay for the course, and you will complete the course on our platform. So this education provider, in this case, Achieve CE, they have actually put the course on our system. You complete the course on our system, and as soon as you're done, we will issue you a certificate, and the completion will immediately populate into your CE Broker account, which then, of course, the board has visibility into as well. You may see some courses here that also say included with Pro Plus. So there's actually, for some professions, there's actually a fourth account tier that we offer called Pro Plus that actually provides access to a catalog of over 1,000 courses that are included in the price. And so if you're seeing something that says Pro Plus, that just means that you don't have to pay $24.99. It's included in the subscription price with your account plan that you already selected. For your agency, the social workers, counselors, and marriage family therapists, we have a Pro Plus subscription plan option for you all. Unfortunately, it doesn't yet exist for psychologists, so that's why I didn't show it previously. Lastly, let me orient you to our support center. So a few things. One, if you find yourself in need of some help, you can click the little question mark icon in the bottom right, where it's going to show you any kind of features, product releases, new stuff you can view here. If you need to get in touch with our support center, you can click this link here as well, or you can access support from our homepage. So let me show you that as well. I'll log out of this test account that we have created. Here at the top of our home screen, you'll see a tab that says support. If I click into support, you'll see a few options. So I mentioned before, our platform is built for licensees, providers, and the boards. You as the licensee, obviously, you will go to the Licensed Professionals tab to find that catalog of kind of ready-to-go resources I mentioned at the top of the webinar. Here you'll find a whole bunch of step-by-step guides, tutorial videos, etc., to kind of help you with whatever your question may be. So this one's specific to creating an account, There's the tutorial video, step-by-step guides, screenshots, etc. If you have a question related to adding a license to CE Broker, which I showed you that process previously, there's a guide here for you as well. If you're not able to get your question answered by the ready to go resources, you can contact our support center. Like I mentioned before, they're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. And you can contact us either by submitting a ticket, just either using this form or submitting an email to support@cebroker.com, or you can live chat with us by selecting the icon in the bottom right. That's going to initially pull up our AI chatbot. Her name's Julie. If Julie can't answer your questions, you can get through to a live agent and correspond with them there. The advantage of using the live chat function is that it allows for sharing of images, screenshots, etc. So sometimes that's a really quick way to get your specific question answered. So let me exit out of this and let me just jump back over and see if that sign up flow is working again. If I can show you how to create that basic account. This is promising. Okay, so let's try again with that example before we end the tutorial section of our demonstration. So the example I was using previously was a Texas licensed psychologist, I think is what I had queued up. We'll click continue. Like I mentioned previously, because the only account required by the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council is the basic account, that's the one we're going to use. And let's use that same license number we referenced previously, 8888-888. You'll click continue. This is where we got hung up before. So this should be new information for you all. Because agencies like BHEC will often use the same license number across different professions, it's really important that you look at this list and you ensure that you are selecting the license specific to you and that you're not accidentally selecting one of the other individuals who just also happen to share that same license number for their respective license and profession. So we want this licensed psychologist here. If you select something that already exists in our system's going to tell you. So if you select continue, our system's going to say, actually, the license number you entered already has an account with CE Broker. So you can just say, oh, whoopsie daisies, let me try again. We'll go in here and we'll enter the correct license number. We'll use this example. We'll click continue. We actually want this Jane Doe licensed psychologist. We'll click continue. And you'll see, oh, our system has found you. It's going to ask you to verify, hey, is this you? And then the only thing that you need to do is enter in an email address. I'll use just a test one here. You'll create a username. Let's see, my dog's name is June. She's Junebug. So I'm going to say that my license name is Junebug 2025. And I'll create a password. You'll notice the prompt there on the right needs to be at least 8 characters, 1 uppercase, at least 1 lowercase, and at least 1 numerical character. And we'll click Create Basic. And as soon as you do that, it's going to take you right into the basic account, which should look familiar as I demonstrated previously. This is very similar to the previous account types that I showed you prior. However, like I mentioned before, this free basic account just shows a binary complete, not complete. It's not going to show the progress bar as it were. However, with that, I think that's everything that I had slated to show you as part of the demonstration. So with that, I guess first, I'll turn to my colleagues, Deb or Kenya. Is there anything that I missed that I should go back and cover quickly before we get into questions?
I don't think you missed anything. We did get a lot of questions about tracking for multiple licenses. and
Mhm.
where you can find that. I know you did cover that, but if you wouldn't mind just going over that one more time, we did get a lot of questions about that.
Yep. No, great question. We can certainly do that. So we'll just use this basic free account that we just created. So in this case, this licensed psychologist, they only have the one account in CE Broker. If you want to add an additional license, and like I mentioned before, whether it's an additional license you hold within the Behavioral Health Executive Council, or if it's a license from another state, who we also work with. I showed you that um, that slide that had the other 11 agencies that we work with, then you can track that license within CE Broker. You'll just select this little plus icon that says add a new license or certificate. Give it a second to load. We'll say, well, in this example, let's say, so we also track for instance, the Kansas Behavioral Science Regulatory Board. So let's say you have a license in Kansas, and let's say you're a marriage family therapist in Kansas. So let's select this licensed clinical marriage and family therapist as an example. I actually have this queued up. Let me find that license number and drop it in here. So in this case, for that profession, for that board, for that profession, they have to include the kind of alpha characters. We'll just select add a license, and you'll see it's going to say verifying license. You'll receive a notification when your license information is ready to be added. Like I mentioned earlier, this process can take up to 24 hours, so don't panic if it doesn't happen right away. But if you then go back into your account and you select the dropdown, you will see there where that additional license is currently kind of pending verification. Do you think that answers that question, Kenya?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was mostly just where it was located and how to add additional licenses or licenses. So I think that answered the question.
Perfect. What other questions are there that we can answer? We have a little over an hour here, so we want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible and making sure that people feel like they have their questions answered.
A couple of the questions that we received are related to the carryover hours. Like this one, for example, says, what about the carryover CEUs from last renewal period? As a social worker, we can carry up over 10 hours. How can I add these? Also, what about hours earned during my birth month? Will these count during current renewal?
The birth month question, I'll default to the board to answer. The initial question around the carryover existing hours from a previous cycle that you want to apply to this cycle, that is a great question. The issue is that because we just launched with this board, there are no previous cycles in CE Broker. The cycles kind of start from now. And so naturally the question arises, well, how can I report a completion from a previous cycle when there's no place in our system for that completion to go? Moving forward, after a few cycles, this won't be an issue. But currently, the best way to go about rectifying that is if you have, like you mentioned, up to 10 hours from a previous cycle that you want to count for this cycle. And I've conferred with Daryl and Robert on this. The best way to go about doing that is to modify the completion date to fall within this cycle. And so it'll populate into this cycle, and know that the board may launch a post-renewal audit to verify those submissions and that documentation as part of you leveraging that carryover rule. Is there anything that you, Robert, or Daryl would like to add to that point?
Yeah, just that we recognize folks are wanting to carry over their 10 hours. Just uh, be logical and upload it. Put a date in that's within this renewal cycle. The first date, the last date, something so that it fits in, and just indicate in the description that you're doing the 10-hour carryover.
Right.
Going forward, you won't have to do that. It'll automatically carry the 10 excess for you. But for this time, that makes sense. To the question about your credits taken during your birth month, the renewal cycle is tied to your expiration date. And so It it simply is the case that if you take a course before your renewal date, it goes into that cycle. And it you can have the 10 over carry hour, but it won't carry over to the next. And certainly, I know in the past there's been some wiggle room, but now that we're having all this reported, there's just not a way for you to say renew your license early and within that time period after you've renewed, but before your date, take more CE and put it on to the next cycle. It the system simply won't allow that.
I think that might have been a carryover from back in psych days where there was an allowance for that type of thing. But I mean, with the carryover hours we have now, the distinction of whether you're borrowing it from your birth month or some earlier on in the renewal period, it's just that there's not really a reason for that distinction anymore.
So if you've gotten all your hours done and you've renewed your license early, enjoy the fruits of your labor. Take a break. Wait until after that date to start doing more CE. Jason, we got some other questions I noticed about folks who have multiple licenses. You talked about adding the license to the accounts. They were asking if they report the CE into one account, will it show up in the other account, or do they have to double report?
That's a great question and one we get often. The answer is a little nuanced. It depends. So if you are self-reporting continuing education, you do need to essentially dually report across the different licenses that you want that course completion to apply to. So if you are reporting, hours for your social work license that also fulfills your counselor license, or that also fulfills your social work license in Kansas, for example, if you're self-reporting, you do need to do that additional entry. I understand that's a little cumbersome, unfortunately, because each board is kind of set up uniquely in our system, and there are unique attestation questions that the board has asked us to put into the system that precede the document upload step. That necessitates you individually reporting for those additional license types. The exception to this is if you have your completions submitted on your behalf by an education provider. The way that mapping is set up is if a provider is submitting completion for you for your social work license, if that course is also accepted by your Texas counselor license or your, in this example, Kansas social work license, it will automatically map, is what we call it, to those additional licenses.
Another question we got is, can you set up an account as an LPC associate, or do you have to wait to be fully licensed in Texas?
I know the
That's a
answer to
good.
that, but as that's kind of a board rule, I'll let Daryl or Robert answer that maybe.
Go ahead, Robert. I'm working on
Yeah,
typing.
that is a good question. And no, for all associates, you are not required to do CE while you are an associate. And so the system doesn't recognize you yet. So you cannot create an account until you're fully licensed. But that means you are getting your training under supervision, and so that's your focus, not CEs.
And if I'm correct, the same would apply for, provisional psych licenses, for instance, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So one question I'm seeing a lot of, and people are asking about, is like, what do we do about things like presentations, college courses that you teach, those kinds of things that are not structured courses put on by a provider under the 50% rule. Jason, can you show them how to report that type of stuff
I can,
in their
absolutely.
account?
Yep. So we'll use this basic free account we created previously for this licensed psychologist. The reporting options are a little bit different across the professions, but generally speaking, there is an option like this for all of them. So we should be able to do this for the psychologist. So we'll just jump over here to report CE, and you'll scroll down here to the bottom. So you'll see these other options, excuse me, down here at the bottom. So to your point, if you prepared and gave a presentation or you authored a book, let's say you want to, leverage the ability to report to count those essentially competency options as continuing education. The first thing that I would do if I was a licensee is I'd click on the Learn More drop-down menu just to kind of make sure what the rules are. So for both the presentation option and the authoring a book, there's a limit on the number of hours that you can have count towards continuing education. I think it might be the same for this one as well. Yep, correct. Supervision, I think there's a bigger allowance of, I think it's up to, 20 hours. But let's say we're doing one of these initial options, like you mentioned, Daryl. Let's go ahead and use this presentation one as an example. So you'll simply select this option here, click report, and we'll kind of walk through that flow. So let's say that this presentation was given on, for example, August 1st. Let's say we want these to count towards the general requirement. And similar to what I did before with that self-study example, let's say that you want 7 hours to count. If you click continue, our system's going to say, hold on, the board says the max allowable is 5, 7 hours isn't going to fly. You can adjust that, say, okay, I'll accept 5 hours, click continue. Then similar to the other reporting flows, once this loads, it's going to ask for some basic information. So for this reporting option, it only has one attestation question. What's the name of the presentation? You can say, we'll say, psychology for the Texas professional, whatever the case may be, and click continue. And if you want to provide whatever the corresponding documentation may be associated with that presentation, whether it's a notice of the seminar, if it's an agenda, whatever the case may be, you can provide that associated documentation. I'll grab a certificate here that I have on my desktop, just as an example. We'll click continue.
Jason, what are the file types folks can upload? I've noticed some people asking questions about, can we snap photos? Does it have to be PDF? What are the file types that can be uploaded?
I believe that's a great question. I believe it's PDF, JPEG, PNG. Yeah, I would have to get back to you on exactly knowing what the limitations are, but those are the general.
Let me help everybody out there in licensee land. If you've written a book, do not scan that entire book and upload it to us. It's okay if you just want to scan, just shoot us a picture or take a PDF of the cover, something with your name on it if you've written the book. Same thing if you've done a presentation article. We don't need the whole thing. We're just looking for some sort of documentation or verification that you actually did whatever this self-directed CE credit is. So this is not gotcha law, everybody. A lot of people, I think, feel like it is. We're not trying to play gotcha law here. We're just looking for some kind of verification that, hey, if you say you did a webinar or you say you did a college course, you did it, just give us something that we can go on in this. So hopefully that kind of allays a lot of fears. I'm seeing a lot of questions about what is the 50% rule. I'm going to be honest with y'all. All y'all should know that already. That should not be a question that's being asked in this webinar. So if you're questioning what the 50% rule is, go read the rule, the continuing education rule for your respective profession. You're going to see a subsection in there that says at least half the hours that you submit each year that are needed for renewal have to come from one of the providers in that list. Go study that. You need to know that already.
We do display that same information underneath the CE recognized for 50% rule, CE not recognized for 50%. If you click learn more, it's going to detail exactly what that means. Additionally, so this is the basic free account, because the basic free account doesn't include the transcript, it does help it does ensure that you have access to the board rules at your fingertips. So you'll see here so it says not complete. View your board specific CE CME requirements here. If we click on this link, it's going to take us straight over to the BHEX website where you can view those specifics associated with CE. And to Daryl's point, the question of what is the 50% rule? Click this arrow here. It's going to outline that same information that is within the learn more section of that reporting flow I showed you a second ago.
Jason, I'm seeing a lot of questions too about, do you guys have a list of providers that report directly to you? I'm assuming people are going to be looking for providers that just make it easy for them to, they're not going to have to fool with entering all this. It's done automatically. Do y'all have a list in your pool or whatever that folks can shop in, if you will?
We do. I mean, we do have access to a list. We certainly know which providers are registered on our platform. We don't have a list that is readily publicly available to licensees.
So they can't search by providers who report directly.
You can certainly search by providers in our course search. So if you go to find courses, there's not an option in any provider that is listed on the CE Broker marketplace is reporting completions directly into CE Broker, whether they have, whether they're actually hosting the content on our site and they have that take it here button I mentioned before, or it's what we would consider an organic listing, so you see down here towards the end, there's some options here. So these educational providers, in this case, professional development resources, they do not host the content on our site. If you wanted to take this course, you can click on this link here. It's going to tell you about the course, but to actually register for this course, pay for this course, and complete it, it's going to take you outside of CE Broker to that education provider's own website or to a conference registration page, whatever the case may be. However, by listing their course on CE Broker, that essentially is saying this provider will report the completion for you despite it not being hosted completely on CE Broker. Okay. So anything that you find on CE Broker, that education provider, as a function of putting their content on our core search, is agreeing that they will report the completion usually within 30 days, I think is the caveat we give them, into CE Broker. However, there are some education providers who register with our platform who do not wish to list their courses to be publicly available or to be publicly listed on our site. So there are providers out there that are reporting into CE Broker, even though you don't find it here on our core search. A good example of that may be a hospital or a healthcare system which offers continuing education only for their employees, for instance, where only their employees can take it. They don't want it publicly available necessarily, but when their employees do take those courses, they are reporting it into CE Broker. So the best answer I have for you is just to check with that provider and ask them, are you reporting in a CE Broker for my Texas license?
Okay. Yep. And I'm seeing a lot of questions folks are asking about, do courses, there's some confusion of people about what if CE Broker the actual provider. No, folks, CE Broker is not the actual provider of these continuing education programs. They are the platform that we are using to track your compliance, and that allows you to upload and manage your continuing education hours, but they are not actually putting on the hours. And folks are also asking, are they going to be the ones vetting what we submit? No, agency staff, BHEC staff are still the ones that are going to be looking at it to see whether or not it is directly related to the practice of fill in the blank counseling, psychology, what have you. That's not CE Broker that's doing that. That's still our function. We're just using them to gather all the information so that when you are selected for an audit, we can go to CE Broker, pull it up, look at it, and see, yes, all of these hours were met. They all meet the requirements of the rules. CE Broker is not doing that. AI is not doing that. I want to take this opportunity to kind of give everybody just a very quick breakdown of how continuing education and renewals and audits are going to be handled. So the way the system works right now, when you are up for renewal, You have to affirm or attest as part of your renewal that you have met all the continuing education requirements for your profession, whatever it be, counseling, psychology, marriage and family therapy. And then nothing really we don't really vet you. It's more of an honor system. We are taking you at your word that you have met the requirements of the rule. Unless you are selected for audit. And those people that are not selected for audit, they click the attestation, they are allowed to renew and go on their merry way. The folks that are selected for an audit, their renewal is held up until we actually audit their continuing education to see, did you in fact meet these CE requirements? If you have, then your audit is cleared and you're allowed to renew your license. That will change with CE Broker. With CE Broker, because you're now going to be required to enter all your continuing education hours and upload proof of those hours in the form of, a PDF, a screenshot, whatever, whatever certificate, whatever it is that's the proof of those hours. If you haven't done all of that, CE Broker system will tell our database they have not entered all their hours or they have not uploaded the proof of that, and you will not be allowed to renew. So there's not going to be that part of the honor system is kind of going away. You will be precluded from moving forward if you haven't actually entered hours. And the audit system, we are no longer going to be auditing you ahead of time, though. We are going to shift the audit till after the renewal. So that if you upload a picture of your cat or your grandchildren as proof of your continuing education, and then you are selected for audit, we discover that, then that's where there will be a consequence on the back end. So that is how it is going to work. It is meant to provide a little bit more accountability, but also to speed up the process so that we're not hanging people up on audits ahead of time. We'll do the audits on the back end, but we'll still do that. We're still going to be the ones vetting whether or not your continuing education meets the requirements. It's not CE Broker. It's not an artificial intelligence system. So hopefully that answers those questions there.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you, Daryl.
Couple other questions, Jason. One from our end. Well, just tell me if I say anything wrong.
Okay.
Questions we've got people asking about if you have supervisor status, what do you do about the extra requirements, the supervision hours? And the system will know if you have supervisor status, and your account will show the requirement to have the supervision hours. So you don't have to enter that information. You'll just have to report the CEs like any other CE. It'll show on your account your requirement.
Yep, exactly.
And then people are asking if you attend a conference that's a multi-day conference and it has within it some ethics hours and some general hours and some, let's say it even has a human trafficking hour that it takes care of.
Yep.
How do you report that? You can't simply report just one certificate in it. It won't split it out for you. So you have to report the ethics hours and the human trafficking hours and the general hours, but you can use the same certificate for each one. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right. So yeah, let's say you attend a conference and you have 20 hours that fulfilled multiple subject areas. You'll just go into the reporting flow for the ethics requirement, for instance, and submit those, let's say 5 hours or 6 hours, depending on your profession, whatever it may be. And then you would then go into one of the other subject areas, let's say, distinct populations, whatever the case may be, submit for those, 3 hours, whatever the requirement might be. But you're just essentially saying that it's the same course, the same provider, and you are attaching the same documentation, certificate, whatever your evidentiary documentation may be, associated with each of those different subject areas. That's exactly right.
And another question, several folks asking about if they're using the basic account, it doesn't have the tracking transcript. But if you remember in the pictures, it does say not completed or completed. So there at the top, it says not completed. Once you have entered in all your required hours, it will say completed. It will let you know that you have uploaded everything that is required. And it will let us know that you have entered in everything that is required. And if you have a situation where you have reported everything and you feel like you should have been completed, but it is not saying that you're completed, that's when you reach out to CE Broker, customer support, and or they reach out to us.
Right, exactly. In an ideal world, any questions that a licensee has about actually using the CE Broker system, why something maybe isn't counting when you think it should be, whatever the case may be, please reach out to our support staff. That's what they're there for. If you have a question specific to board's rules or interpretation of board's rules, or seeing if specific subject area or requirement applies to you, that's a situation where it's best to reach out to BHEC. So just kind of a distinction there. If it's about CE Broker, please reach out to us. If it's about board rules or something of that nature, we would encourage you to reach out to BHEC.
Jason, will providers who report hours on behalf of the attendees of a course, are they going to indicate whether those hours meet the 50% rule when they're submitting the hours to CE Broker?
So they would apply. Let me find an example of that. It will show in the course history. Let me log out of this test account and log back into the previous account that we showed everyone earlier. And I can show you an example of what a provider reported submission will look like. Let me grab my access credentials here real quick. Okay, so for instance, you'll see this under this LPC licensee. Everything that is reported into your account, whether it's been by you or by the education provider, shows up in your course history. So just looking at the course titles and the completion dates, it's a little tricky to know what's been reported by you or by an education provider. So you'll just have to click into one of these. If you click into one of these, you will see that, for instance, this education provider, you'll notice it was posted by the education provider and under this kind of reporting criteria. So in this case, it's the supervision CE requirement, the 2 hours required, that counts towards the 50% rule. If it's something that was self-submitted, as is the case with this ethics course that we did together, you'll see that this was posted by the licensee, but similarly, it'll show you exactly into what reporting option or reporting criteria that applied. So if you remember from the Report CE tab, give this a second to load, it'll show you kind of to which one of these options those either self-submissions or education provider report to continue it, like where it's going, essentially.
Okay, good.
I also saw a few questions about how this will affect the actual renewal process. One person said, so to clarify, we are only doing our CE through this app. We will still renew through BHEC directly. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, correct.
Perfect.
And I would just clarify on that question. To say that you're only doing your CE on this app, I just want to make a clarification there. While you can find courses on CE Broker's marketplace, you do not have to take those courses. You can take courses from whatever education provider you've historically taken from, or any new provider or course that you want to take CE from, so long as it meets the board's requirements, and you can report those completions into the system. So my assumption is, in that question they're asking, is CE Broker just handling the CE part of the renewal requirements? And the answer to that is yes, you will still renew through BHEC site. But I just want to clarify that you don't have to take CE that you find in CE Broker's core search.
We did also get a few questions about how to tell the difference between delivery methods for courses. Do you have any suggestions on how to tell if a course is a webinar versus a seminar versus a broadcasted interactive event?
So when you're self-reporting, is that what you mean?
Right.
Let me go back. Let me jump over to that self-reporting flow and just we can look at that together. So the question is let's say you're submitting CE that's, in this example, not recognized towards the 50% rule. We'll go ahead and click submit, or report. We'll say August 1st. The course type, generally you will know if it was a live interactive course, or if it was kind of an anytime course, or a self-paced course is another way of explaining that. And you'll see that if you select live, there's some delivery options that are available to you all: lecture, workshop, seminar, etc. If it's anytime, there are different delivery options that are available to you all. Sometimes that information is indicated on the certificate or whatever evidentiary documentation the provider has given you. Sometimes it's not. It may just, be up to you, kind of your own recollection of how you completed that specific that specific course. But again, because the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council does not have delivery restrictions, I don't think that there will be an issue with our system flagging.
No, it's kind of a distinction without a difference for our purposes. In other words, you're not going to get dinged if you select, well, it's a broadcast interactive versus a virtual I don't care. What I'm looking for is it the requisite number of hours, either cumulative or ethics, supervisory, technology assisted, distinct populations, those types of things. Really, what form it's in doesn't matter for purposes of our rule, because we don't have delivery method restrictions. So folks, don't get hung up on that. Yeah, don't overthink that or get hung up on it, because we're not going to, I can assure you. And for the folks that are asking about, do you get CE credit for attending this? No, you do not. We're not giving you CE credit for attending this.
Also, questions about the provider, a lot of questions about providers and the role of the CE broker sort of recognized list. And again, there are providers that have chosen to register with CE broker, and CE broker provides this avenue to help you find courses that you may choose, but you are not required to. And again, under all the board's rules, there are 50% of your CE must come from a certain provider type that's listed in the rule. But anyone at all across the country, anywhere, international, can provide CE. So there's not a prior approval process for the council. If you take a CE from some group, any group, you can upload it into your account on CE broker. If you report all of your coursework and all of your certificates, whether or not they are registered in CE broker, whether or not the provider, upload your certificate, none of that means they are automatically accepted and golden and cannot be looked at. If your account is later looked at for an audit, and we determine that that particular CE was not in fact an ethics CE, then that's a conversation we have then. Just because you upload something does not mean it's forever more taken as great. But you may upload any CEs that you take.
And
I hope that's clear.
yeah, I mean, along
Yeah,
those same lines, folks, also remember, you can cross-pollinate between the professions, just like Robert said, any CEs that are directly relevant to the practice of. So all you LPCs, if you take something from NASW Texas, if you go to their annual meeting, that they're going to you're going to be able to utilize that because there's a lot of cross-pollination between these professions. So don't get too hung up on that. That we are not trying to play gotcha with this rule.
Yeah. And the only other point that I'll add there is for licensees that have an upgrading account, well, regardless of your account type, you can report anything into CE Broker. It's going to show up in your course history. If you know, stared at your cat for 12 hours and want to count that as CE, you can say, I did that. It's going to show up in your course history. However, if you have an upgrading account, only the continuing education that's going to count towards your compliance is going to show up on the transcript. So oftentimes a licensee may have, done 100 hours, but only some of those hours are actually showing up on the transcript because anything that is in excess of the requirement or doesn't meet the rules in one way or another will not show up on the transcript.
And that's because largely this is still a self-reporting system, right? There are certainly some courses that will be pre-entered for you, but this is a management tool that you are uploading and self-reporting the courses that you took and what they are. And we are counting on you to be forthright and honest as the good license providers that you are. Jason, I got a question here about how do people make corrections if they make an error when they're reporting things?
Yeah, absolutely. I showed that previously. I'm happy to revisit. So if we jump over to this, so this is the same regardless of your account type. This is that LPC license that we had previously. So let's say, for instance, you reported this this ethics course, right? This was the test ethics course that we reported together previously, and you're looking at this and saying, "Oh, actually, I entered the wrong name of the course, the wrong name of the provider, the completion date. You put August 8th on here, or sorry, August 1st on here. Let's say that was incorrect. You can make edits by selecting the little ellipses to the right of the trash can. Click on that, and you can make some edits. You can't edit everything, but you can edit those things I mentioned. The name of the course. So we can say, revised, whatever you want to say here. And we'll say provider revised. And let's say, oh, actually, I completed this on the, 15th. Some date in the past. It's not going to let you do dates in the future. So you can save those changes and give it a second to think. And it's going to apply those revisions. So you can see there that we have changed the name of the course, we changed the name of the provider, and we changed the completion date to now be the 15th. However, if you need to change the number of hours, you cannot do that with the edit functionality. That requires you to delete the course and resubmit it. So you can either delete it with the ellipses to the right here under this view, or you can expand it and you can delete it with the with this option here. Let's go ahead and delete this course. We'll delete it. It's going to ask you, do you want to do that? Are you sure? You'll say yes. You'll notice that it's gone from the course history. You can then, and you'll notice the tabulation in this upgraded account change because those 8 hours are no longer applying. You can now go in and re-report it. A point that I didn't show previously, if you want to view anything that you have previously deleted, click the removed button. It's going to show you those courses. So here's the example that I just deleted, and here's a bunch of other kind of test courses that we were in here just as part of the testing and configuration of this for the demonstration.
And this is the same on the basic account too, correct?
It's exactly the same, correct.
Okay. Now,
Yep.
Jason, what if they miscategorize it as something, a course recognized under the 50% rule, when in fact it was not? You have to do the delete and re-enter the course, same as you would have changed in the hours, correct?
Exactly, correct.
Okay. So there was a question in the bank about that. So hopefully that person is listening.
There have been a few questions about the subscriptions that are available. So just to reiterate, I think you did touch on this earlier, but what's the deal with the Pro Plus and is that available to these professions?
Yeah, let me just jump over to that screen specifically. So I'm going to log out of this account here. We'll access it through the CE Broker homepage just to show. So I mentioned you can access the different plans available to you in a few different ways. Either you can, when you are first creating your account, you can select Get Started, or you can select the plans page here. If we select plans, it's gonna, like I said, it's kind of bespoke to your specific state and profession. We'll say Texas. I'm happy to see that this sign up flow is working again. And we'll say we'll use psychologist first. So if we go psychologist, you'll see that the 3 plans that are available to you give it a second. You'll see that the 3 plans available to you are the 3 plans that I showed previously and were included in those initial slides. The Pro Plus offering currently does not exist for psychologists because those are essentially based on a special agreement we've worked out with those education providers to put their courses into that Pro Plus catalog. There's some unique accreditation and approval criteria for psychology courses that have prevented us from getting them into a Pro Plus category just yet. However, if we were to change the profession, so this is an opportunity to show you something here as well. If you accidentally select the wrong state or profession, you can kind of change that here. So we'll select Texas. And let's say this would be the same for a social worker, a counselor, or a marriage family therapist in Texas. So let's do MFT. We'll select this option. You'll see there's an additional plan option available to you, which includes Pro Plus. So essentially, this account tier includes in the price, in this case, $99.99, it includes access to a catalog of courses in the course search that are included in the price. Instead of paying for the courses a la carte, you can select this option. Then when you are using our course search, so we'll go over here to find courses. We'll make sure that we are a Texas MFT. And we'll select find courses. So then when you're looking at courses, you'll see some of these offerings say included with Pro Plus. So that just means that you already paid $99.99 for the account subscription and the courses. So you're not going to have to pay $29. It's included in the price. Same goes for this one, same goes for this one, etc.
And we did also get this question a couple of times. You are able to upgrade your account at any point. If you just start with the basic, the professional and the concierge will always be available to you within your account. And if you do choose to upgrade in the future, it won't impact any of the data that you've input into the account as well. All of the CEs will remain the same. It'll upgrade the existing account that you have.
Exactly. I can sign in and show that real quick. So what was the username? Oh, my dog, Junebug. Her name's June, but call her Junebug. Everyone has a pet name for the dog, right? And let's see, password. So here's that basic account that we created previously. You'll see here if you have a basic account, but you want to upgrade, there's a few places where in our system where it'll ask you if you want to upgrade. For instance, if you want to view the transcript, it's going to say the transcript is a feature of the premium surface. You can unlock it by upgrading here, or you'll see the tab at the top, upgrade account. You can select this. It's going to give you the options available to you all. Because this is a psychologist, it's only giving you the options available. If you were a social worker or a counselor or a marriage family therapist, it would also show you the $99.99 option for Pro Plus.
Jason, do the auto populate when providers auto populate information for licensees? That's true for both the basic and paid accounts, correct?
Correct. Yep. That's irrespective of the account tier you have. providers reporting completions on your behalf, as long as those courses are accepted across those different licenses and or states, then it will map accordingly. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Once again, several questions about, I'm sorry, can you?
No, you're
Uh,
good. Go ahead.
Several questions about the 50% rule and how it relates to providers reporting and on CE Broker. And so just again, um, there any kind of provider could register with CE Broker and could report to CE Broker. The fact that they are on CE Broker's site and reporting does not say anything about what type of provider they are. And so some of them will meet the requirements under the 50% rule. Some of them will not meet the requirements of the 50% rule. And that's up to you to know as the attendee what type of provider they are.
Right.
And then I saw a couple of questions about the risk of duplicate postings. So this question says, is there a risk of duplicate reporting if the provider reports and then we report the same course, or will CE Broker catch that?
We will catch it if it's in one direction. We will not catch it if it's in the other direction. And I might lean on you for this, Kenya, if you know the answer to this. If it has been reported already by the education provider, or I'm sorry, if it's been reported by you as a self-submission, then the education provider tries to report it on your behalf, our system will essentially reject that. If it's the other way around, if it was reported first by the provider, then you try to self-report, it's going to essentially allow that duplicate submission. So you as the licensee just want to make sure you're looking at your course history, or if you have an upgraded account, the transcript, and see if that completion has already been reported by the provider. If it hasn't, then you're free to report. If it has, don't try and submit it also, because the system will allow you to do that, and you'll run into some issues with duplicate reporting.
I will say that even if the educational provider has already reported it to your account, during the reporting process, if you try and report it again after the provider already reported it, you will get a little message during the reporting process that says, this looks similar to another course in your account. Has this already been reported? You are able to bypass that, but if you see the course has already been reported to your account, then I would recommend just not reporting it again.
Yeah, thanks for that distinction.
Jason, when reporting a course, if an individual doesn't have the certificate yet, it hasn't been emailed to them, do they need to wait before they make the entry into CE Broker until they actually have the proof of documentation to upload, or can they come in later, edit that, and add the attachment later?
No, our system, if you're self-reporting CE, as long as it's one of the reporting options that requires documentation, remember some of those don't, like the self-study, a couple of them don't require documentation. If
Yeah.
it's something that does require documentation, like, just general reporting of a course, our system will not complete the process unless you upload something.
Okay.
Yep.
Jason, you probably already, I think you already covered this, but just in case again, if people are interested in learning about the states, the other states that CE Broker has licenses with, or the course provider, where do they go to search for the state licenses and the courses?
That is a great question. So a couple things. One, they can look into course search and see if there is courses populated for a respective state and a respective profession in those states. Or in the sign-up flow, how you select Texas or Louisiana or Oklahoma, whatever the case may be. If it's a state that we already work with, it's going to essentially allow you to kind of carry through with that flow. If it's not a state that we work with yet. It's going to say CE broker is not yet in the state. Please contact your board to encourage them to utilize this platform. Or I can't remember exactly what the messaging is, but it's something along those lines. Kenya, do you know if there's a list somewhere on our, I don't think there is like a comprehensive list on our site anywhere that
We
shows that.
don't currently have a list. The best way to find out if your license is tracked is to attempt to register for an account. And if you don't see your profession listed with your state, that means that it's not available through CE Broker.
Right. Yeah, but just because that question came up, let me just jump back over and I can review that. I can revisit that slide I showed previously. So these are the other mental behavioral health regulating entities across the country that we currently work with. Some of these are independent, autonomous agencies. Some of them are composite boards like BHEC. Some of them are part of an umbrella department like Louisiana's Department of Labor Licensing Regulation or Michigan's Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. Regardless, these are the other, like I said, mental behavioral health boards that we currently work with.
I was going to note just for everybody, we have about we have answered nearly 180 questions on the Q&A, as well as all the questions we've been talking about here. We still have 400 entries. We are not going to be able to answer all 400 entries. And particularly for those of you who have questions about, does this particular state exist? Does this particular provider count? Does this particular course count? We're not going to be able to answer those individual specific questions. So work with your rules and work through your colleagues, and then reach out to us at the council if you need that specific question answered.
What other general questions are there that we can answer? We have a little bit of time left. We don't have to use all of it, but to the extent that we can.
Yeah.
I think
So-
you touched on this a little bit earlier as well, but I do still see a few questions coming in about the manual calculation in a basic account. So this one says, if we stay with the basic account, how will we know if our extra CEUs are being successfully rolled over to the next renewal period? Is there a way to verify that with a basic account?
There's not a way to verify it with the basic account other than just looking at your course history, knowing what you have reported and kind of what the balance is. When you renew your license and we get a new set of data from the board with your new cycle, then those hours in your course history that you reported for the previous cycle, they will tabulate and count towards your, in that case, current cycle. But no, to explicitly answer the question, there's not a great way to visualize that. That's where a benefit of the upgraded paid account would come in, because that would be displayed on the transcript.
And I think this question would probably be for Daryl and Robert. Somebody asked, can we email BHEC to verify a CEU prior to uploading to confirm placement of a CEU? Do you want licensees reaching out to you guys to verify if a CEU can be used toward renewal?
No, we don't. We do not pre-approve your CEs. And that's, again, that is in our CE rule. And the reason being is because there are 92,000 of you, and we simply cannot do that. We count on all of you to be familiar with the rule and to assess whether or not the continuing education course that you have selected meets the requirements of the rule. The ones that we check are the ones that are audited. Now, if you're, I don't want to say we have never done it in the past, because that's not true, but I simply do not want to encourage people to start submitting all their coursework to us to make sure that it is acceptable or pre-approved before you submit it, because that becomes completely unworkable. And that's why the rule is written that way, that we do not pre-approve.
So the rules are not changing. One of the couple of questions about are we changing any of the CE requirements? And no, the rules, the CE rules have been updated. I guess at the June council meeting was the last update.
Yeah.
And so those are the rules that CE Broker has used they literally coded their software to our rules. So they are up to date. I think there was one question about the use of the term graduate transcript versus university transcript. I think to Daryl's point earlier, we are trusting y'all to be reasonable people. And so if you take a course and based on the experience, you truly believe it's an ethics course, and it reasonably seems to be an ethics course, and your colleagues agree that it's an ethics course, then it's fine. Then it's an ethics course. If you are thinking, well, if maybe I can email, and if I ask it in a certain way, they'll grant me approval to consider it to be a supervision course, even though I know it really wasn't. Don't try to game the system. You know, you licensees especially are well steeped in personal responsibility and judgment, and so we rely on you to have that in deciding when a course meets requirements.
We've got a question here. Someone's asking if we submit a certificate that doesn't qualify, will it kick it back to you before your renewal date? Let's say you were not sure that an organization was giving LCSWs CEUs and they give them to LPCs only. No, the system will not kick it back, because the system is not, when you upload something, it is not using AI, or there's nobody at CE Broker that is looking at what you upload to determine, oh, that's actually a picture of their cat, not of a continuing education certificate. Again, this goes back to what Robert said. There has to be an inherent level of professionalism and trust that we put in all of you. And quite frankly, I mean, a lot of you have shown y'all are very well behaved professions. So this is not, I would say this is not a high risk proposition putting this much trust in you. But there is a certain degree of trust that we have to have with you, that you are going to be honest in what you upload. For those that are dishonest or that want to game the system and you get caught in an audit, there will be consequences for that. So just be aware, if you want to play that game, I'm not, and you get caught, there will be consequences, and more than likely they will be rather severe. So take that with a grain of salt, because 99.9% of you will never even see the light of day of a disciplinary action, thank goodness. But for those of you that want to walk on the line and kind of live the outlaw lifestyle, I don't recommend it. But anyway.
That actually, now that you mentioned that, Daryl, one thing that I didn't show is, that's an additional kind of nod to trying to take courses from education providers that are reporting into the system, because it's an additional level of essentially, assurance that reporting is true and accurate. It's coming from the primary source, the education provider. One thing to note, while self-submissions do require a certificate associated with it, stuff that comes from an education provider will not have a certificate associated with it. So if you go into your course history and you're looking at a submission from a provider, there is not a certificate attached to it. And so generally speaking, the regulating entities that are then auditing down the road, usually they end up only looking at those self submissions, knowing that that's kind of where the largest chance of human error may exist. Typically, they aren't looking at the provider reported submissions because, like I said, it is kind of primary source information. There's not a certificate associated with it. Now, the education provider is often still required to issue a certificate to the licensee That's just a matter of, them getting you that certificate via whatever other mechanism may exist. But as far as what's actually reported in CE Broker, those provider reported submissions won't have a certificate attached to them.
Another question we had is, let's see, if I would like to roll over 10 CEUs but only have a basic account, should I contact the board or CE broker if the rollover is not successful?
Do you know, Kenya, from that question, are they asking if they have hours from a previous cycle that's not in CE broker, or are they saying if they're trying to carry over hours from this cycle to a future cycle and it's just not displaying for some reason, or they're just not sure, I guess, if it's counting, or it doesn't seem to be counting?
I would say the second. I'm not 100% sure, but I would say the second example of what you said. I would say if you feel that you are complete or you should be complete in your CE broker account and you see that you're not, reach out to CE broker support first to make sure that everything in your account is working correctly. If anything needs to change or if there's a system issue or anything like that, our support center will be able to figure that out really quickly and be able to correct that without having to bother the board or anything like that. So if you have any questions or you feel like something is wrong in your account, definitely reach out to CE broker and we'll make sure it's not a technical issue before it needs to be escalated.
Yeah, perfect. We just have about 4 minutes left in this scheduled webinar. If there are any other questions, now's the time. Additionally, one other thing I'll mention, looking at the live stream, just let me pop over there. There are still, about 400 or so folks over there. I mentioned this at the top of the webinar. If you would like to participate in the webinar and have your, questions submitted and potentially answered, there are 2 additional webinar opportunities coming up. One is October, one is in December. I think is it October 27th or sorry, what's the October date? Do you guys have that in front of you?
29th.
October 29th and December 10th, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. And the
Robert just sent out an email to everybody this morning on our listserv, so check your email on that. You should have got an email from us.
Perfect. And then I saw this question in the chat previously, and this was mentioned at the top, but this webinar is being recorded. It'll be hosted on CE Broker's YouTube page. We'll figure out with the board, either they can just link to the recording there, or if they decide that they want to actually host the webinar recording on their site, they may end up doing that as well. We'll figure that out, but you will have access to this full 2-hour webinar after the fact.
And no, you will not get CE credit for watching the YouTube video. I know that question will come up as well, so I'm going to go ahead and answer that now.
Jason, a good sort of closing question I just saw is, at the end of the day, when one of our licensees decides to retire and take a well-earned break, will their account and all of the documents they've uploaded still be available on CE Broker?
They will still be available, yes. We will ultimately, at some point, get an updated status in the license file that we receive from BHEC. So your status will change to, volunteer, retired, or whatever the case may be, whatever that status change is. But you will still forever and always be able to access your CE Broker account and the documents that you've stored there. Like I mentioned, a lot of people will use our system as a kind of a document repository. You will continue to have access to those.
I think a great way to look at it in a way that we always explain it in the support center is that CE Broker is like a big filing cabinet that you can add all of your CEs to, and then BHEC can access those CEs when they need them. So it's really a great storage device for any CEs and certificates that you have and you want to keep track of all in one place.
filing cabinet in the sky. Say it like that.
Well, I don't have anything else. I'm still answering a few questions here, but
Yeah, I think scrolling through, we've hit pretty much all the topic questions that I'm seeing. Again, if you have an individual question about your account or states or providers, that'll have to be a different way. If you feel like your question was a general question and you didn't hear the answer, I would recommend you go back and listen to the webinar, because I believe we have hit pretty much all the topics that I'm seeing. And again, the recording will be available, and we will send out the slide deck as well.
Excellent. Well, with that, we are at time. I just want to, first extend my gratitude to Robert and Daryl and the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council for allowing us to bring this platform to you all and to your licensees. Then I want to extend my thanks to everyone who took the time to join and engage, ask those questions. Like I mentioned before, we do have support staff available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. They're available via live chat. You can submit a ticket. And we have a bunch of helpful resources in our help center as well. So if you have questions about using our platform, please take advantage of those outlets. Otherwise, I think it's time that we wrap this up.
yeah, thank you, Jason, and to your staff for helping us do this, and look forward to putting on the other two webinars with you all again in the future. And thank you for all the licensees out there for attending and kind of blowing the roof off of this thing. We had 3,500 people registered for this webinar today, which broke records for CE Broker and for BHEC. So we warned Jason that y'all were very participatory in nature, and you did not disappoint. So that's a good thing. So really appreciate that. And look forward to hopefully answering some more questions for some of you that didn't get them answered today at the upcoming webinars.
Excellent. Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Thank you.